The prices of everything have gone up, but the cost of equipment seems to be more inflated than everything else. With the biggest auctions of the year wrapping up and shattering records, the whole industry is wondering if 2022 will be the breaking point, or are these prices here to stay? In this video, we're going to look at the data and figure out if we should be holding off on buying any equipment and waiting for these prices to fall, or if we need to act fast before the prices soar even higher. So watch to the end and let us know what you think. Talon machinery represents a large portfolio of iron from multiple industries. We have an inventory valued at over $6 million. Equipment pricing is literally our job. That being said, everything in this video is just my opinion. I'm not an economist, and this is not financial advice. According to Ritchie Brothers, the largest auction house for heavy equipment and trucks in North America, prices in 2021 were up nearly 35% over 2020. At the time of making this video, Ritchie Brothers is wrapping up their biggest auction event of the year in Orlando, and early reports are that prices are again breaking records. But why is this happening? Prior to 2020, the heavy equipment industry operated like pretty much any other. Manufacturers built new machines, developing new technology along the way. Bigger, established contractors trade in their older machines in favor of the new model. The late model used machines filtered down into the hands of smaller contractors, so on and so forth. This was the cycle for nearly a century. When the pandemic hit, the industry was nervous, and for good reason. Everything was being locked down, and no one knew if we were going to find ourselves in another major recession. The industries that support heavy equipment aren't exactly recession-proof. The 2008 recession hit construction first, and construction felt the effects of that recession through 2012. So it's logical to think that anything that hurts your customers financially is going to hurt you. In 2008, there were a lot of mistakes made. Government bailouts of major corporations, finger-pointing, and overall polarization across the whole country. Because of this, many of the largest financial institutions in the country, and by extension the world, went out of business, leading to millions out of work, home foreclosures, and small business closures. But to understand the prices we see now, we need to look back even further. Most small contractors don't operate on cash. They live in a constant debt/leasing cycle. At some point in the last 2 decades, manufacturers realized they weren't capturing as much of the market as they could, so everyone started offering equipment lease purchase programs to smaller businesses to bridge them from renting equipment to owning. At a glance, this seems like a good thing. It's much cheaper than renting, especially if your equipment utilization is high. But this also adds liabilities to smaller companies who might not be able to handle it and brings more volatility to the price of used equipment. So during a recession, if a lot of small contractors fall in hard times, they opt to return their leased equipment to reduce their monthly liabilities. This adds more equipment availability to the used market, which at that time is going to have less buyers. Supply outpaces demand, prices fall. It's simple. So then why are we seeing such high prices right now when so many businesses have been shut down for almost 2 years in many places? There were 3 important things the federal government in the United States did to respond to the pandemic from a monetary standpoint. They put cash in the hands of American citizens with stimulus payments. They paid citizens not to work with extra federal unemployment benefits. And they paid businesses of all sizes just for existing with the Paycheck Protection Program and the EIDL.
It's twice as large as any relief ever signed. It's $2.2 billion, but it actually goes up to $6.2 potentially trillion dollars.
These things were definitely better than what happened in the last recession and saved many families from significant hardship. But what happens when people still need things like toilet paper and food, but everyone is getting paid to stay home for an extended period? Prices go up because the supply is low and the demand is at best unchanged, at worst higher. However, there is only so much toilet paper and ground beef one person can reasonably use. So the run on consumer goods was temporary and the inflation on these items would only be transitory. But this was an important warning of what was going to come. Following the economic stimulus, the amount of money average Americans had saved literally doubled. This is because all those stimulus payments were sent out without consideration of income or employment status. A lot of cash sitting in bank accounts unused is bad for the economy in general, and the Federal Reserve decided to step in. An oversimplified way to understand how the Federal Reserve sets interest rates is this. Money is put into circulation by banks borrowing money from the Federal Reserve to lend to consumers and businesses. The Fed sets high interest rates in order to deter people from borrowing money, which controls inflation by restricting the supply of money. They will set a low interest rate to stimulate the economy by incentivizing consumers to borrow money to buy things. So the Fed sets the interest rate to near zero with the hope that they could prevent the whole economy from crashing. The run on toilet paper changed to a run on cars and houses, causing cascading inflation on the prices of anything you would borrow money to buy. But that interest rate drop didn't just apply to consumers, it applied to businesses too. Any small or large business owner who had access to an amortization calculator could see that paying a few thousand more on a piece of equipment won't matter when the interest rates are so low. The prices go up and we just keep paying them. But what happens when the interest rates rise again? Before we get to that, I just wanted to take a second and ask you, did you buy a machine in the last year? Did you pay these big prices? Leave it down in the comments for science. So let's fast forward to 2021. 15 days to slow the spread turned into 15 months to slow the spread. But the world had begun to adapt, finding ways to get back to some level of normal bit by bit. The Fed held those interest rates down, so there is a boom in the housing markets, the new and used car markets, and the equipment industry. Every auction, prices rise with no end in sight. The Build Back Better initiative fuels speculation, leading to even higher prices on equipment before there is even somewhere to use it. Talk of semiconductor shortages, clogged ports, and a ship run aground in the Suez Canal caused even more panic buying. And it is true, there is a semiconductor shortage, but that's not for a lack of effort. Semiconductor production hit an all-time high in 2021, and several new production facilities came online to meet the demand. The real problem is that, while designed and sometimes assembled in North America, American equipment manufacturers are heavily dependent on parts and raw materials sourced in China. Anything that interrupts that supply has downline consequences for companies like Caterpillar and John Deere. The other side of the issue is that there is flat out more demand than there has ever been. In 2021, I personally visited quite a few equipment dealers around the whole country, everyone from Volvo Construction to Bobcat and Caterpillar. Most had no new machines on the lot, and the machines they did have were already spoken for. I spoke with a sales rep at Bobcat in Austin, Texas in the fall of 2021, and he said that they had an 18-month backlog on orders for machines and nothing to sell on his lot. Other dealers were showing machines that customers had brought in for service in order to sell new customers on the idea of placing an order and waiting. When powerful on-brand dealers are hungry for inventory and they know they can simply set whatever price they want on their stuff, the effects on the used inventory are huge. Rumors of cat dealers bidding more than new MSRP on a used machine at auctions are common. International buyers from South America also fueled the problem, swinging huge bids to export these older machines. Will the bubble burst? And if so, when? Right now, there are early reports from the used car market that there are some price contractions happening at the dealer auctions. And some would argue that this is a key indicator that the same will happen in equipment. I have some issues with that speculation. My first issue is that equipment doesn't have any major dealer-only auctions. The general public is free to bid on the same equipment that the dealers buy. The end consumer doesn't have the same limitation that a dealer has because they are the endpoint of use. So when contractors are bidding up the prices of equipment at auction, that has a ripple effect on equipment prices in the open market that can't happen in used cars. The other issue is that for most people, a car is more of an appliance and a liability. Very few people buy a Toyota Corolla exclusively for business use. However, pretty much every excavator is bought to make money. As long as these machines can profit more than the cost of the payment, there will be somebody to buy them. There isn't a price ceiling unless some manufacturer comes in and undercuts the competition. I'm not sure that this is a bubble at all. I tend to believe that these prices will stop accelerating and rising, but I don't see them coming back down to where they were prior to 2019. The inflation is not transitory. I think it's here to stay. When the Fed inevitably does raise the interest rates, what I think will happen is the dealer lots will fill back up and the demand will stabilize, but I don't think these prices will drop. Thank you all for watching this whole video. It took me the better part of a week to research this properly, so please make sure you go ahead and smash that like button because it would be really appreciated. I'll catch everybody in the next one.